Okay, let's go and sort the sound levels out before we do anything. So it sounds looking pretty good actually. So we'll leave that as it is and we'll check it again once the engine is running. So FSC5 has appeared in the Livestream chat. It says, hey, I've learned so much from you. Yeah, like how not to operate aeroplanes absolutely correctly. Okay, so we're in the let me just get the head tracking sorted out. We're in the Black Square C208 Grand Caravan in Flight Simulator. If we go and have a look at the map, we're going to take off from Land's End, which is the far southwestern point of the UK, or the most southwesterly airport anyway. It's not the most southerly, as you can see. Prydain Navy is more southerly. But anyway, we're going to follow our way along the north coast of Cornwall and Devon, and then go up towards Gloucester, and then turn round and follow the Welsh coast out and hopefully get as far as Waterford this evening. We'll see how we go. So this is going to be good fun. Just shorten this up out of the way. So I need to remember now about how to start this airplane up. Oh, hello, we have a question. I have a question. I'm currently in the A330neo. It's spamming overspeed. How do I stop overspeed in the Neo? Slow down. Is that too obvious an answer? Yeah, slow down. Set the auto throttle to go to a slower speed. Contrary to popular opinion, Airbuses don't do everything for you. And depending on the version of the Airbus you've got in the simulator, it may do more or less correctly as well. Anyway, let's go and see about getting this thing started. I have not been in the 208 for a very long time, so I'm just reacquainting myself with what's where. So we've got the fuel shut-off valves overhead, and over here we've got the master switches. So we've got the battery over here, and fuel boost I think has to go onto norm. I'm just trying to remind myself, to be honest. The avionics don't usually come in until the engine's ready. I need to go and set my controls though, don't I, before I do anything. So let's go and sort this out. So actually we are a single engine aircraft, so this might be correct. So let's just see if I've got a mapping for it. It'll be either Black Square Caravan. I wish there was an easy way of seeing these. See, there was one back there. Let's try that. Apply, go back, resume. So I just want to see where this throttle's going. So that's reverse. So where is the... if I have that switched over, I think that's probably correct. Oh no, idle's all the way up there. So I've got the RPM on this one, and yeah, the fuel shut-off can stay because we don't fiddle with that in flight. I can't remember how this works. Let me just have a quick look and go back to the controls. This may be the setting I used to have for the Asobo version of the aeroplane, not the Black Square. No, I've just gone round in a complete circle. Okay, we'll try it. We'll see how we get on. If I have to change the controls, that's fine. I just will. I have to try and remember now how the airplane works. So we keep the fuel on cut off at the moment. We hit the starter, and the propeller should start whizzing around. Let's have a look at the gauges. Yeah, we've got the RPM coming up. I think it's about 13 or so %, isn't it? Something like that. And then you can... Seems very quiet for me, but that's probably just my speakers. Am I putting the sound through the correct device? Yes, I am. Okay, so then we can that's interesting, isn't it, to see how much difference that makes. Anyway, so once the engine is started, we can turn the starter off, and it should continue on its own. We can then turn the avionics on, and we'll see things come to life around the cockpit, and hopefully now... Oh, I haven't got this installed at the moment, so that's probably going to be a gigantic mistake. So I need to go and choose a different avionics kit. Let's get that stalk out of the way. So we want... I wonder if the 530 will work. It didn't work in the TBM 850 the other day. Of course, now because we didn't load in with the correct GPS, it hasn't got any memory of me loading a flight plan into it, which is pretty useless. It's bizarre as well. Look, that's loaded straight in. It hasn't done the boot up sequence. So we're probably heading towards failure here, but we'll see. Calibrate the altimeter. Just check. Fuel boost can go back to off, I'm guessing. Now we're up and running. And we should have had the beacon light on, by the way. So let's go and put the beacon light on belatedly and put the seatbelt sign and the smoking signs on, and we'll go and... We don't need pitot heat until we go out to the runway, really. So we've got a cabin temperature sensor, haven't we? It's over here. So it's 39 Fahrenheit. What's that in centigrade? 4 centigrade, that's not much, is it? So should we see about warming the cabin up? So cabin heat, mixing air, you can pull and push, aft cabin, defrost. So let's see what happens if we turn this on. Will it just cook the cabin? It's that long since I've flown this, I can't remember. Don't think we need it. I think we can just pull this out a little bit and it'll warm the cabin up. We'll find out in a moment. Okay, it's quite early in the morning, so we could do with some panel lighting, couldn't we? Lights, so we've got the taxi and landing lights over here. We will be using the taxi light in a moment, but let's have a look down here. Have we got... that's cabin heating. Here we go, here's the lights. That's a little bit of light, better than nothing. The temperature's not coming up yet. Okay, so we are at Land's End. Let's go and have a look at the weather. I'm running live weather. Oh my word, there's 20 knots of wind. Well, we'll see how we get on. We can take off into it though. We can taxi down to runway 07, do back and backtrack on ourselves. Or we could go to 02, couldn't we, in the Caravan? It would be quite happy doing it. Interesting. Okay, so let's advance that. Let's speed the propeller up. Is this actually picking up? Is this because of the throttle position? Yes, it is. Okay, maybe we'll have a play with that while we're in flight. It's just so long since I've flown this, I can't remember how I had it configured. Yeah, so we've still got the blue light for cold cabin sensed. So just before we go anywhere then, let's get the cabin temperature under control and see if we can remember how this works. So see now that, okay, you roll the mouse on it. Presumably you have to put the bleed air on as well to have hot air come in from the engine to warm the cabin up. Okay, let's have a, oh my word, look at the windsock. It's horizontal. So if we were to go and skirt around the edge of the field, we should be able to get to the runway. We could obviously do a crosswind takeoff on 3-4. It's not going to hurt it that much, is it? It's only at a slight angle. Let's just keep it on the runway there, hey? That's the wind pushing the tail round, trying to weather vane the aeroplane. Okay, so I haven't gone and selected altitude or anything yet, so let's go and do that. Probably go to 2,000 feet today, which will be fine. This one should work correctly, so that's interesting. Anyway, we're going to set the heading bug as well to the direction we're going, so we'll correct this for any drift. I don't think it does drift in this. I think it's slaved. There's a slave option over here, which means this is going to follow the inertial systems on the GPS to know which way we're going, and we can pull the course around to match the direction we're going for the moment. Okay. Let's just press F to correct the zoom level. Whoa, look at that wind trying to get under the wing. And crab into the wind slightly. Have a look from outside. Look at it going sideways. Very cool. Okay, we didn't put the, although I'm not sure how well this works, but we'll put the weather radar on anyway. So we essentially want to be travelling northeast, so along that coast. So it's not exactly rocket science to follow this coast today. So I'll start turning right. We can pull the engine back, pull the RPM back as well, and just tootle along. We'll keep an eye on the needles. So RPM's fine, ITT is fine, because obviously the Black Square aircraft is a lot more realistic than the out-of-the-box one, so we need to keep on top of things. So I'm just trimming it gently. coming up towards 2,000 feet, which was our target altitude anyway. So if I was to go and put the autopilot on, it will go to... It's interesting, look, it's gone to minus 200 on the... So although it's slightly below at the moment, if we go and arm that, will it allow us to? So can we come up? And if we then go and pull the heading round just for the moment to the direction we're going, and put us on heading mode, which will keep us steady, and we can have a look out of the window. Now, is it going to work, is the question. Yeah, look, this is broken in the same way as all the other Black Square aeroplanes. While we have the GNS, it's not going to work. So we're going to have to retreat back to the KNX. And then everything will work, hopefully. So if we go heading mode now, yeah, it's working, look. That might be why we couldn't arm the altitude earlier, so obviously now it's done it. Let's try it. So we'll arm 2000. No, it's not going to allow us to arm it. So altitude is, say let's put 2,500 feet in just for the moment. Press altitude again and we can climb at 500 feet a minute. And it's doing it, yeah, it's behaving now. So we're just going to have to stick to the old school instruments until, I think it's a bug with the last update to the simulator, broke all of the Black Square aeroplanes. So we just can't use GPS at the moment, which is fine. Gives us something to do, doesn't it? So we're climbing at 500 feet a minute. To be honest, while we're along the coast, we could just stay at 1,500, couldn't we? So should we just go altitude hold? And it's holding us there, look, which is good. Obviously the sun's going to come up, so should we put these lights on a little bit brighter? They're a little bit insipid, aren't they? You can see a little bit better. Is there any floodlights overhead? There's the vent. I'm not sure if you can control these as... Are there some flood switches somewhere? So, lights, cabin lights, that'll be them, won't it? Or not? Is there a knob for them as well? That says something about... No, that's not it. Got cabin heat, cabin lights, vents. We're back up to 24 centigrade now, which is good. So it's not quite so chilly in the cockpit now. Okay, so let's go and find out where we are. So we've begun our way up the coast. We'll do a touch and go at Perranporth when we get there. So do we have any radio beacons about that we could use for reference? I guess there's an NDB up here, but there's not much around in the southwest, to be honest. You have to go much further up country, yeah, before you start getting VORs. So we'll just go visually, it's fine. Okay, I've just turned the head tracking off so I can read the live stream comments. So, Jeremiah says, when icing occurs on the cockpit glass, how to get rid of when there's no de-icing system on the aircraft? Yeah, descend. If you're covered in ice and you're below zero and you've got no heating system, you're in trouble. In that case, you're trying to open a window and get your head out of the window to see where you're going. Ice is caused by perspiration in the air. Well, not perspiration, precipitation in the air. So, and the temperature, obviously. You can be too cold for ice to form, which is the common thing you get at high altitudes with the big jets. Once you get above a certain altitude and the temperature drops so much, ice will no longer form because it's too cold for ice to be able to form in that way. You know, for it to collect on the aeroplane. Or adhere itself, I should say. I've seen the fix for the 530 and 430. Yeah, and I know, I read the discussion with Black Square, and they're in talks with Asobo about getting the whatever caused it fixed. So we're just about to pass Portreath. So if I put the head tracking on, I can actually lean out. There's Portreath, tiny little village down there. And then we'll be going further up the coast. So St Agnes Head is the headland out here. So let's go and turn ourselves towards it. Whoops. Oh, Sim's just frozen. For whatever reason it freezes. Who knows? Nobody will ever solve that. I wonder if it will still do it in 2024. So this is St Agnes Head. The next headland is, yeah, Newquay, Crantock, Hollywell, which you can see out there. Okay, how are we doing on the route? So Perranporth is just coming up. It's over here. So given the wind, we want to come in directly from this side actually. So let's come off the autopilot. And come off the power a little bit and the RPM on the propeller. And see if we can slow this thing down. So the speed is coming off quite quickly. We are in flaps range now, so we're dropping flaps. We can keep the power up, but then just reduce the RPM to come in slowly. But another way is to run higher RPM and less power. It's amazing how steeply you can come in this aircraft. Look, it's not appreciably accelerating. The flaps are so huge. Go and have a look from outside. Okay, let's just center my view up. Whoops. That's the only problem with moving around the cockpit so much, is when I go and jump back into the pilot's seat, sometimes it won't look quite right until I recenter things. So we're still doing 100 knots, look. We'll be over the runway, a few feet off the ground for quite some time as the speed bleeds off. Let's do that on purpose, see how low we can go. So we're down to 60 knots. Oh, it's losing lift, look. Got quite a high level of alpha now. And we're down. So bring the power up, bring the RPM up. And it takes off like an elevator, look, with the flaps. It's amazing short field performance on the Caravan. So I'm retracting the flaps. Pull the throttle and the RPM back, and we're good. Okay, let's fly manually for a while. It's a bit more fun, isn't it? Trim the nose so we don't descend. Looking good on the vertical speed. So the town we're just passing is not marked on the map. That's handy. It's just Perranporth, isn't it? Probably find out that's a caravan park and that's the town. So it'll be mobile homes for holidaymakers or something. Oh, it's a bit toasty, isn't it? 27 degrees in here now. Should we turn the heat down a bit? $26, yeah, it's coming down straight away, look. So the beeping is when we're getting within range. So what do we have on the autopilot? 1500. That's interesting. Maybe the beeping isn't that then. I thought it might be the altitude telling us we are within range of it, but or departing from it maybe. Now, is that a castle down there? Is it? No. It's just I've got the Orbex pack of stuff installed for the British Isles, and there's no list of what assets it actually installs, which is really frustrating. I asked them, and they said they'd see what they can do, and they never came back to me. All they need is a list of longitudes and latitudes and place names, and then I could obviously superimpose them into LittleNavMap, so I could put user points in. Because I don't know if you knew you could do this in LittleNavMap. You can go to user points, and you can import a CSV file. So you can just, you know, compile your own list of things that are of note on the map. Okay, so is this St Morgan we're just going past, which is obviously a military airfield. We're going to steer clear of it. So let's just check the fuel levels. I think we've got plenty. We started off with 50%, and this thing can go for hundreds of miles. So there's a boat down there. I think I have got the seafront simulation stuff installed, but obviously this is not a common channel for coasters and things. They're probably around the other side of the country going up the English Channel. So there's St Morgan, main runway. So we're coming up towards Padstow. So if anyone's seen Rick Stein on the TV with his cooking shows, that's where his restaurant is. Padstow, just in this next bay. It's a little way yet, we need to go around these headlands. And then we'll be on towards Port Isaac, which if you've seen Doc Martin on the TV with Martin Clunes, set in Port Isaac. We'll have a little look at it as we fly past. Maybe circle it. Just get comfortable. I think Orbex have been very good. I'm just reading the live stream chat there. Orbex have been very good with me in the past. I think you have to remember they've got a lot of customers and they're only quite a small team. They're not as big as you might imagine. So they're probably run off their feet most of the time. So let's have a little look at the map. So if we cut across the headland here straight for the town, for Padstow, you'll get to see that easily. So we'll also come off the RPM a little bit. As we descend and come off the power. So yeah, just reading the live stream comments there. There's only KMLs for certain parts of the scenery, not for all of it. It's quite. Or certainly a few weeks ago there was only available for, I think it was one of the southern files, maybe. I can't remember now. I'll have to go and double check. But I did ask if KMLs were available for the rest, and they said they'd check and never came back to me. So there's the port, or sorry, the dock, and I think the ship restaurant's on the corner down here, I think, from memory. There's various pubs around the rest of it. Okay, let's go on to Port Isaac, which is just over here somewhere. If we go from the ocean side, it's very obvious. And if you remember, if you have seen the TV show, you'll recognise it. Because it's a very, very small village. And seeing as there's about 200 episodes of the TV show, it's not difficult to recognise it. So what I'll do is go out towards the ocean and then come back in. If we skid across to the other side of the cockpit, Or is it past the next headland? I can never remember. Yeah, it's past. It's just past here. You can see the houses. It's a shame that we don't have tides in the simulator, although that would be a huge ask, because it is quite distinctive here that there's a car park on the sands at low tide. So it's in here. The houses are up on the hillside up here, sort of new builds. The original village is up on, or in the valley, leading down into the bottom of the estuary. So let's jump across back to the pilot's seat and we'll turn left around the back of the town. So yes, the main part of the TV show happens on that tiny area of sand and pathways down there. The Doctor's house is on the hill up here. So there you go. Who knew we were going to do a tour of TV show locations? Okay, let's carry on. The beeping sound is not the flaps are up. I didn't take off with flaps. I retracted them on landing. Because this aircraft's powerful enough, you can usually get within takeoff range without flaps. Oh no, actually, tell a lie. We did actually take off with flaps, didn't we? Because I wanted to show how strong the lift is from them. It was the first takeoff we did without flaps. But I would have retracted them very quickly, so. It's a windmill. Okay. So Tintagel is coming up. In various legends, Tintagel is the original location of Camelot, I believe. There's all sorts of Arthur legends in the UK about, where the origin of the story may be. One of them, or one of the ideas, is that it was Tintagel where Camelot once was. There's also pretty good, well, not evidence as such, but stories that make sense about Arthur having been a Roman soldier, and Excalibur having actually been a Roman short sword, which would have been very different than the long swords that the English had. Which is why this sword of note became mythical, and why his Knights of the Round Table, where their fighting prowess became so mythical. They may have been professional soldiers from the continent. So Arthur could well have been Arthurian, but that's just one of the theories. There's lots of them. He may well have never existed. Never have existed. We'll never know. Of course, another theory puts the location of everything. I wonder if it's just the overspeed warning when we're getting too close to 180 knots. Although we're coming up 2,000 feet. That was at 1,500. No, because normally it would be the 900 or 1,000 feet away when you hear the beeps for the altitude, wouldn't it? Is the mapping accurate? Absolutely. It's dead on. Yeah. So this is the stock scenery, by the way. Although I've got the Orbex add-on installed, all the Orbex add-on does is adds random bits of 3D structure here and there to augment what's already there. The vast majority of what you're seeing, you know, like 99.99% of it, is out-of-the-box flight simulator. Okay, so we're coming up to Widemouth Bay, then Morwenstow, Elmscott, up to Ilfracombe. So our next, oh, we've gone past an airfield here at Davidstow Moor. I think there is a detailed version of Davidstow Moor available to buy. Let's just double back on ourselves, then go and have a look at the airfield here. I think it might be a grass strip. Let's go and have a look. Oh no, it isn't, because it would be marked as such in LittleNavMap. It's a military airfield by the look of it, or an ex-World War II airfield. They usually look quite distinctive because they have a perimeter road and runways in multiple directions, if they're military. So have we got anything in the way of beacons? No, we haven't, but we should be able to see it fairly quickly. Yeah, it's going to be this flat area, I imagine. Oh, it's directly in front of us, isn't it? There it is. It's just in the sunshine, so you can't see it very clearly. Which way was the wind? So, if we go off to the right, and then we'll be coming into the wind as we turn left. Do a quick touch and go before we carry on our way. So we're already within flaps range. So I'm just cutting the RPM of the propeller to lose a bit more speed, leaving the power at 50%. Drop the flaps and you will see the speed falling off, hopefully. Should we have a go at side slipping to come in on a steep approach? So let's put the nose out to the left. That is some serious side slipping, isn't it, you can do in the Caravan? That's crazy. Absolutely insane. Straighten it up. Yeah, we're going to have to look at it trying to go. Put one tire down, then the other. The wind suddenly started to turn on us as we were on the runway. Lifting the flaps, just keep the nose down until we got some airspeed, and lift the flaps back up some more. Caravan is so powerful, isn't it? We're running at about 80% throttle, and it was quite happy doing that steep climb out. Okay, so if we wanted to fly as the crow flies to the next airfield, we want 34 degrees on the compass. So should we stick on autopilot for a bit? So there's 34. So autopilot on, heading mode engaged, and altitude hold mode. and we can push on with the power a bit. Or maybe not, just looking at the needles there. Okay. So, looking at the wind, we're flying straight into the wind, so we don't really have to worry about being pushed sideways. So we don't have to crab across the wind at all. Do we have any beacons up here yet? No, there's nothing here, is there? One day we'll have a beacon we can use. Is there anything the other side of the bay? Can we get the Brecon one? 11745, let's have a go. So here's nav 1, 11745. No, it's too far away. What is the range on it? Let's have a look. 125 miles. It should, surely we're not that far away, are we? Measure. We're 80 miles away. So we should be able to pick Brecon up from here. Oh, it's just picked it up, look. It just took a while. Maybe we looked at it in the wrong tone of voice. It's wavering around quite a lot. Yeah, look at it wandering. Because we're right, you know, well, we're 80 miles away, and the weather probably is affecting it to an extent as well. But that should give us distance measuring as well. So, can we get that on? Do we have a DME readout somewhere? Maybe I'm being a bit dim here. Oh, here it is. It's right in front of me. 76 miles to the VOR. So obviously if you know the distance between the VOR and Chivener, so 50 miles, so then you can just work out the difference. The other thing you could do is RNAV, which has, does this have it? It's got a KNS 80. Yes, it has. Awesome. So we can go. Can we switch this to use RNAV though? Maybe we can. Maybe just use this. So what do we want? 11745 on the frequency. And then radial will be, so if we imagine measuring this to here, we want 222 degrees and 51 miles. So radial 222 and distance, okay, it's going to work like that. So then that tells you how far to that place in space using RNAV. So 57 miles to go, 23 minutes. That's quite cool, isn't it? But does that actually work out? No, that doesn't work, does it? That's taking no... Maybe they hadn't developed it in this version of the aeroplane, because this is only 21 miles. That'll be the distance to the actual beacon. Maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe it hadn't been implemented in this version of the aeroplane, or it's probably that I'm just not doing it quite right. Or there's another switch you have to throw somewhere. So for the distance measuring up here, yeah, it's only got nav 1, it hasn't got an RNAV. Although, no, I'm being stupid. There's an RNAV section here, so that will be relating to the airfield we're trying to get towards, hopefully. If I've tuned this in right. So I double check the frequency I used. 11745. So we're looking for a point 222 degrees, 51 miles away, which is what we programmed in. And then we switched the HSI source to use RNAV, so this will be pointing or guiding us. That's a good point. If we put this on hold, so it just won't do the calculations. I think it will do the guidance, but not the calculations. So essentially what we've just done by tuning in the RNAV radio to that beacon and to an offset from it on a radial means this the HSI needles will be guiding us to this airfield. Well, that's the theory. So if we imagine we put our course in here, so what this essentially means is if we want to go straight to the airfield, we probably need to turn right a little bit. But it's looking pretty accurate to me, but then look, if you watch this, the needle's floating around all over the place. So I don't think we can take it. It's because we're so far away from the beacon. We can't take it as red. We'll get there soon. So you can see we're just approaching Appledore. So Chivernet Airfield's just the other side of the bay from Appledore, Barnstaple. So if you look at the shape of the bay there, that kind of S shape, there's the S shape. So we're aiming over there somewhere. I have got the, if we put on the outside view, I have got the power lines installed today. So hopefully if we see some pylons along at some point, you'll see the wires dangling from them. And I've also got the large pylons pack installed. Of course, it's sod's law. As soon as you go looking for pylons, you'll never see anybody, or never see any of them. Okay, you're approaching Appledore. Bideford. It's just coming up. It's just down here. I was just looking at this creek down here to see if it's a river. I think it is, isn't it? Yeah, because it comes out over here, look. And then goes into the estuary. Okay, so Chivernet, which way for the wind? None of it makes any sense, and all the runways are disused. So I don't think we'll be landing there. So it's no longer an operational airfield, but it's in the simulator. Be interesting to see if they've actually left the tarmac on the ground or if it's just tarmac showing up in the grass. Sometimes you still see airfields where, you know, the assets have been stripped from the sim, but you can still see it in the scan of the ground. It's very clear. There's some weather out that way, but it's a long way away. Of course, clear at this time of the year probably means it's freezing. Well, we know it is, but our temperature in the cabin is 24, but we've got the heating on. So it's no accident that it's 24 degrees in here. Should put the yokes back on. So we're probably just going to overfly the airfield here at Severn if it's no longer an active airfield, and continue on up the coast, or across the coast to Bristol. Echo Golf Golf Delta. I'm surprised there's no... oh, there is an NDB over here, look. Bristol 414.0. So I wonder if we can get the ADF to help us out. So okay, where's the ADF needle then? Where have they hidden it? Well, we'll put this back to nav 1 anyway now. Am I being blind again? Because that's nav 1 and nav 2. Do we not actually get an ADF needle? That seems a bit odd that we get an ADF unit but no needle for it. So we've got airspeed over here. That's just a 6-pack, isn't it? Repeated. Am I being completely blind? It would appear so. I mean, we don't really need it. I was just doing it for a bit of fun, but we're about to turn right. So 73 degrees we need. But then that's going to be cutting across the wind, so we'll probably blow back towards the line. Or the track, I should say. See, we could play the same game and use RNAV on the HSI, but just tune it into a different place. So if we were to measure this from Brecon to get to Bristol, so we're 136 degrees, 29 miles. So if we go back down to the RNAV radio, (136) 29, wasn't it? So if we put this on RNAV now, remember we're on heading mode, so it doesn't really affect us. We can just play with the instruments to get some idea of location. So that's is it going to work? It's there or thereabouts, isn't it? So it reckons we're slightly to the left of where we need to be, which is exactly right. but we think we're going to, well, if we wanted the 73-degree track, we could obviously put that on here as the course and fly it just like a normal, yeah, so we're slightly to the left of the course, which is exactly what's going on, look. So that's working nicely using the HSI. It's just you don't get distance measuring then via the RNAV computer. It doesn't seem to work. It's directly to the beacon regardless of what you've computed. It's a bit of a shame. So FSC5 is saying that they need to add more buttons and better physics to the A330neo. What, you mean the free one? Well, it's an open source project, so there's nothing stopping you getting involved and learning how to implement physics in Flight Simulator to help them. And if you think, oh, that's too complicated, everybody working on it started somewhere. Probably a lot of reading and a lot of experimentation, but yeah, all of these aeroplanes available for the simulator were built by people just like you and me. They've just concentrated on the one thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and they've learnt as they've gone. So if you're wondering why Nightbot deletes things in the live stream chat, if you use too many emojis, it will just remove the message. It's one of its default settings to stop spam. Right, I'm going to go, while we're on our way, so we've got quite a long way to fly over to Bristol. I'm going to take us up to a few thousand feet on the way. And so we'll go up to 5,000. Can we arm that? It doesn't seem to arm, does it? Obviously we can just use altitude and go up at, we can probably get away with quite a climb rate in this. So we'll go for 800 feet a minute and just convert some of that airspeed into climb rate. And maybe I'll increase the RPM a little bit. So where is the RPM meter? That's interesting, look. You can hear the difference, but the RPM meter's not doing anything. Ah, prop RPM. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. It's a good job I'm not a real pilot, isn't it? There we go. So I'll just balance the RPM there below the red, just to allow the climb to happen up to 5,000 feet. It's actually, that increase in RPM, look, has arrested the deceleration at 800 feet a minute. Deceleration, I mean. It's done wonders. Should we increase the range on this and see if we can see any weather in the distance? Nothing nearby. I was wondering if it might pick up some of this. Okay, so we're just crossing Exmoor, which is this rolling exposed hills. You can see the frost on the grass down there. It's pretty inhospitable up here. So that beep would indicate we're within 1,000 feet, look, of 5,000. So that's behaving itself now. Let's have a look at Exmoor from outside. Looks pretty cold down there, doesn't it? Okay, you can see where we're heading in the far distance over there. Just coming up towards 5,000. When we get to 5,000, I'll level us out, get the engine sorted back out. Just coming off the RPM a little bit. So you can see it's winding out the vertical speed automatically as we get there. It's down to 400 feet a minute. 300 feet a minute. Right, let's pull the RPM back then. Good. Okay. 24 degrees cabin temperature. All of the temperatures and everything look good. Fuel level's still good. It's looking good. Okay, so I'm going to turn the head tracking off for a bit. I'm going to go make a coffee. And we should be more or less on course to get into Bristol to do a touch and go. I think before if we get far enough this evening, if we do get to Haverford, we should get there on the fuel we've got. We'll refuel before we do the stint across the water to Waterford in Ireland. Should be fine. Okay, so I'll put it on the outside view. I'm going to go and get myself a drink. I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, I'm back. So let's have a look at the live stream comments. Saw you open up a VFR map. Is that an add-on? This is a free piece of software for Windows called LittleNavMap. If you just Google it, you'll find it on the internet and you can download it and install it. It has to run on the same computer that Flight Sim's running on. It won't work with the Xbox. It has to be on the same machine as Flight Sim. It uses the Sim Connect interface to talk to the simulator. So where it's quite clever, it loads the database from the simulator. So if you go to the scenery library menu, you load the scenery library, so it goes and interrogates Flight Sim to see what it's got. So if you've got any particular scenery add-ons, it can learn all about them by just reloading the scenery library once you've installed a scenery add-on. It also understands Navigraph. So you can see in the airspace libraries there, it's got Navigraph, and if you go into the a special option appears for Navigraph if you've got the data installed. So Navigraph knows all about LittleNavMap, so you get the option to update LittleNavMap when there's a Navigraph AirAC update. So let's remove some of these measurements to tidy the map up. But yeah, LittleNavMap's great. So say we wanted to put an extra piece, going via a waypoint over here, we can just right click on it and add it and put it into the flight plan. It's very straightforward to use, and the more you zoom in, the more you see. So it's right down to the lettering of the taxiways even. It's very good. It also, if you're using something like VATSIM, it's not perfect, but it has sectors as well. So obviously I've turned everything on there, so it looks like a complete jumble. But it does have the sectors, which is quite useful. Obviously you can switch on and off the different classes of sector according to what you're doing if you're wanting to practice that kind of thing. It can also do wind barbs and all that kind of stuff, so wind at ground, for example. If we zoom out, you can see them on the map. If you can do them at altitude as well, so for a given altitude, and turn it back off again. There's all sorts of things it can do. It's very, very powerful. Okay, so we're approaching Bristol. I had an idea actually when we're flying across. Okay, yeah, so I've got Swansea on the flight path because I've got scenery for Swansea, which is why it suddenly occurred to me. And I think I've got scenery for Haverfordwest as well. Okay, so we're approaching Bristol. So let's go and descend back down. So we're flying at 5,000 feet at the moment. So where's the autopilot? It's over here. So let's go and take ourselves back down to 2,000 feet. And press the altitude button again and come down at... See, look, the arm only appears then at given vertical speed rates. That's interesting, isn't it? So obviously we're going to get too fast, so we're going to pull back the power, or the RPM rather, to control speed in the descent. We're coming down quite quickly. Down to 4.5 already. Yeah, I'm going to have to come off the power. So this channel of water you can see that we're flying up becomes the River Severn further up. So this is the Severn estuary, or Bristol, becomes the Bristol Channel, but this is the Severn estuary and leads into the River Severn towards Gloucester. I think you'll find places like Avonmouth, places like that further up the river. Sharpness. There's the River Severn, see? It's interesting. There's Newport, Cardiff. Okay, so looking at Bristol, we're going to have a crosswind. So if we go runway 09, we could have a play with the ILS, couldn't we? 11015, 87 degrees. So we want the HSI using nav 1. 110, what was it, 15? Yeah, 11015. Switch that to active. And the course needs to be 87 degrees. So that's about there. So that's pointing at the runway direction from the direction we're going. So we're off to the right of the centre line, so we're going to do quite an extreme skip across. You can see we are below the glide slope at the moment. The markers are above us, we've already picked it up. So just to give you some idea on the map, if you've never seen this, what we're doing is flying out to intercept the centre line for runway 09. But maybe not the centre line actually, that's a lie. We're intercepting the localizer, which is this beam that is projected by radio. But it may not always line up with the runway. It's 87 degrees on the runway, yeah, so in this case it is the same. If we were running Navigraph, we could pull up the plate for Bristol. It would make probably quite interesting reading if you've never seen one before. We have got some time, but I need to be turning right in a moment. So let's go and start that turn. You'll see the CDI, or course deviation indicator, will start sweeping in. When it's in the middle lined up with this course, it means we are on that line. You can see the CDI is just starting to move around. Keep an eye on it. In fact, does this have on the... Yes, it has approach mode on the autopilot, so we'll switch it on. Here it comes, look, here comes the CDI. So we try to time turning in towards the course so that we end up going towards the course with the CDI in the middle. So it means we're getting closer and closer to the 87 degree radial. I think the glide slopes are on the move as well, the markers. So usually once you're within a couple of dots of it, you should be able to go into approach mode. So it's armed the glide slope, so what it will do is it will keep flying level until the glide slope comes through, and then it will start descending. So at the moment the aeroplane isn't using heading mode anymore. If you go and look on the autopilot, it's on approach mode. So it's steering to try and put the CDI in the middle, and it's flying level until it hits the glide slope, and then it will start descending automatically. So we're only doing 110 knots, which is perfect. If we look out ahead of us, there's the runway. So we're a little way out yet. You should see on the distance measuring equipment the distance we are from, here we go, 6.3 miles out. So generally you need to be at 2,500 feet above ground level at 8 miles out. Most ILSs are 3 degrees. Here comes are those glide slopes moving? I think they are. Yeah, they're sliding down now slowly, meaning we're getting closer to the invisible line from the end of the runway that comes down through the sky, and we'll basically cross through that invisible line when these hit the middle, and then the aeroplane will naturally start to follow that line down to the runway because it's in approach mode on the autopilot. Well, that's the plan. You can only intercept the glide slope from underneath it. You can't, approach mode won't intercept it from above. So watch the vertical speed. There it goes, look. It's now chasing the glide slope. So we need to be wary of speed. So I'm going to extend flaps that will give us some drag as well as lift. They'll give us drag, so the airplane will go nose down to continue to chase the glide slope. but obviously with the flaps we have some drag. Anyway, yeah, we can go and watch this from outside if you wanted to. Ideally though, you want to keep an eye on the instruments while you're doing this and get the power and the RPM back up to kind of balance things out. So you can see off in the distance, or at least I can, I'm not sure if it's going to be high quality enough on the stream. On the PAPI lights out there I've got 2 whites and 2 reds, which means I'm exactly on the glide slope. If I was too high, I'd have 3 whites or 4 whites. If I was too low, I'd have 3 reds. So I've gone slightly too high, look. So more whites means you're too high, more reds means you're too low. So the aeroplane will hunt looking for the glide slope. It's going high, look. So we'll turn the autopilot off and we'll follow it ourselves. So you can see as we slide off to the right, see the CDI is going to the left, meaning we are off to the right of the centre line. And we've gone high, look. Can you see the glide slope markers? So as I come down, you will see they will agree when they're in the middle, or usually they agree, sometimes they don't. It's quite often in Flight Simulator the PAPI lights and the glide slope won't agree with each other, or not exactly. See, we're going too low. Can you see that? It's gone 3 reds and the glide slope marker there. We're actually getting turbulence because the wind is hitting these trees that are nearby, throwing us all over the place. But obviously we're visual now anyway. So at some point, obviously depending on conditions, you stop looking at the instruments and look at the runway. Look at it drifting. It's just floating on, obviously because there's such high wind. It's flying like a kite down the runway. There we go. Okay. It's like a ski slope, this runway, isn't it? It's a downhill in the middle of it. Obviously it's a big airport and you normally wouldn't be coming in here with an airplane like this. So flaps are up, climbing out, away from Bristol. And we are going to go on towards Gloucester. And there's still no beacon over there. It's annoying, isn't it? So 34 degrees, we'll just do it visually for the next leg. Okay, so let's get the autopilot back on and go for heading mode and altitude hold. We'll be fine at the altitude we're at, just coming up to 2,000 feet. I think most GA traffic flies under 2,000 anyway, so we'll class ourselves as VFR GA traffic for the next leg. Just our own navigation. Although having said that, if we had the sectors on and we're reading them, quite often cities have quite strict rules about overflying, you know, given altitudes. So we're just passing right over the top of Bristol. Should do it from the outside view so you get to see the city. football ground. So it looks like they're using photogrammetry for Bristol then, which isn't surprising. It's quite historic. There's been some revisionist history written about Bristol, kind of people trying to, what's the word, where you ignore the past of a place. Bristol was built on slavery hundreds of years ago. There was a lot of wealth of this city, and its founding was built on the slave ships. And there's increased importance in people telling the true story. There's been the usual woke brigade of wanting statues and things taken down of the slave traders that used to be around the city. But there's an increasing drive for people to say no, history is important. If you erase all traces of it, then the lessons won't be there for future generations. It's an interesting debate. GPU, it's in the notes of the video. I always post in the notes what the hardware is. It's down the bottom, so if you do show more on the description of the stream, the machine specs are in there. Okay, so you can see that wind. Oh, actually no, we just haven't got the direction posted incorrectly, but we're on a slight angle to the track. We're about to go past Filton, which is down here somewhere. Oh, there's some pylons, look, at last. There's Filton. So Filton is famous for Concorde. It's where it was test flown, where it performed its last flight and went home to land. Along with numerous other aircraft that flew out of Filton over the years. I think between them, Filton and Wharton, further up the northwest coast of the UK, are responsible for quite a lot of the prototype aircraft that were flown over the kind of 60s, 70s and 80s. Okay, so we're just coming in towards Gloucester, so we're going to be passing over Dursley in a minute, or Dursley, as the locals would call it, and then Stroud, Painswick. There's a golf course at Painswick somewhere. I wonder if it's in the simulator. And then after visiting Gloucester, we'll be doubling back down the other side of the Severn towards Cardiff. I mean, we could straight line it through the hills. There's some amazing scenery in Wales. Big rolling hills. Okay, let's go and put a few more degrees on the heading. Coax the aeroplane back in towards Gloucester. I haven't actually drunk that coffee I made. It's just been sat here while I'm waffling on. So what I'm going to do for the next few minutes, because obviously this is going to be a few minutes till we're in Gloucester, is put ourselves on the outside view, take my headset off for a while, take the head tracking off, and go and have a sip of my coffee. Okay, so I was just looking at the map and plans for the next few nights. What I might do is curtail tonight's flight at Gloucester because it makes a nice breaking off point, and then possibly do Gloucester to Waterford as the next big leg for a stream in a couple of days' time, and then do obviously the tour around the outside of Ireland over a couple of days, then back over to North Wales and follow on round obviously in days to come, and we'll continue on doing the tour of the UK bit by bit. So if you weren't aware, the other day I did the flight down from Booker to the south coast and followed down towards Land's End. So tonight has taken us back from Land's End, back along the north coast of Cornwall and Devon, up towards Gloucestershire. It would make a good cutting off point for another section of the flight without the videos getting too long, to be honest. So let's put the head tracking back on. And we should see Gloucester in the distance before too long. So as I said, we're just coming over the top of Dursley. This is Dursley down here. So Gloucester is obviously famous for the Gloucester Meteor aircraft, one of the very first jet fighters in the world. I think it test flew at Hucklecote. I'm not sure if the airfield still exists. Yeah, because there's obviously a Jet Age museum, so maybe this is built on the same location. I'm not sure. I'd have to go and look at the history books. Yeah, so you can see Hucklecote Lane is here. I think Hucklecote has been swallowed up by the rest of the city now. So this software is LittleNavMap. This comes up repeatedly in the flights. If you look in the notes of my videos, it names the software I use. So LittleNavMap's available from the internet. You can just Google it. It's free. It won't work with the Xbox. It will work with the PC. So we're just coming in towards Gloucester. So which runway? So we'll be using runway 04, looking at the wind. Let's just check the wind on the ground. If we hover over that with the mouse, it tells us 0 knots on the ground. Whether that's correct is another matter. So we should be able to see it out ahead of us. So I'm inclined though to go and take the autopilot off and go and have a look at Gloucester on the way over. And then maybe circle the airfield, seeing as it's our final one tonight, and have a look at it before we come in. Just remembering runway 04. So let's just pull ourselves back up gently to 2,000 feet. So I'm just doing that slowly and surely. You can see the bales, look, in the fields. That's unusual for flight sim, isn't it? I wonder if that's a seasonal thing that they've added, because they are slowly putting the data in for the seasons, aren't they, in preparation for 2024? Because obviously they're all going to use the same data sets. See, there's a line of pylons along there, but they're right on the edge of the draw distance at the moment, so it's not rendering them very neatly. It's the railway line by the look of it, or is it the main road over there? Main road, sorry. Hey, let's descend down in. So you've got a river over here. I'm guessing this is the canal. I'm probably wrong, but my dad would be able to tell me because he grew up here. He got the docks down here. But there's probably more than one dock. Okay, so you can see the runway out over there. Or the airfield, I should say. So, we're looking for 04, aren't we? So we're broadly doing this correctly. Got the runway over here. So we're getting the speed under control. We'll get the flaps travelling, which obviously gives us some drag. Then we can bring the power back up and the RPM back up to balance the drag as we descend in. So we have VASI lights at this airfield instead of PAPI lights. So there's two lights. One light, one white and one red is what we're aiming for. Two whites means we're too high, obviously, as you can see. So we're descending quite rapidly. It's just different methods of doing the same thing, really. Keep an eye out for this tower at the end of the field, which is right in the glide path. Doesn't look tremendously safe, does it? Is it a mobile phone mast? I think it is, isn't it? Wonderful. So we've got a bit of a crosswind pushing us across from just as we came across those buildings. We're still too high. Okay, if we go and turn right onto the other runway. And out onto the taxiway. So the flaps can come up. The landing lights can come off. I think they were here, weren't they? Oops, I need to look where I'm going. Oh, did I didn't have them on. I only had the taxi light on. Okay, I'll turn it off now anyway. So we're about to stop. Okay, so all we need to do is cut the fuel and the engine will die. And then we can start switching things off around the aircraft. I think we're pretty much there, so it's just a question of turning off the batteries, or avionics first. And there we go. So hopefully you enjoyed that. That was the Cessna 208 Grand Caravan, and we did a quick flight. Well, not quick. It took us a couple of hours to come up from Land's End up to Gloucester, and then over the coming days we'll do a trip across the south of Wales and hop across the channel to Ireland, go over to Waterford, and then over the coming days after that we'll continue on around the coast of Ireland, continuing on our explorations. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, take care.